And welcome back. Well, now we've already talked about the most widely known applications, which are essentially in health and in energy. And now we start to talk about things that some people do know, some people don't. But right, radiation is, as I told you, very good for destroying DNA, meaning for killing things. And that's why we use it for cancers, right? But it can be good for other things too, right? For instance, for sterilization, to kill things you don't want to be there. And for instance, it's very good for food irradiation. You may have heard it, maybe not. The idea is if you irradiate fresh fruits, grains, or vegetables, you will inhibit budding because essentially you kill the plant. Okay? Oh, sorry, I'm killing the plant. Yeah, when you cook it, you're killing it. When you do, how do they call it? When you pasteurize, you have pasteurized eggs or pasteurized uh, fresh cream or pasteurized milk or things, you're killing them, right? So mostly the food you want it to be dead by the time you eat it. That's not true for fresh vegetables sometimes, but what it does essentially, it does the same thing without cooking the, the your food, right? Without changing any other physical property, and it can also slow down maturation and increase conservation time by all these things. And in natura fish food, especially meat, eggs, and vegetables, sterilization is very good for killing potential harmful organisms. Meaning, if you have, for instance, you may have heard you shouldn't eat raw eggs because of salmonella. And if you irradiate the eggs, you won't have salmonella, because if there was a salmonella vermin inside, microorganism inside the egg, it will be killed by sterilization, right? Uh, it can also, for instance, kill other things in meat and in vegetables. And one important thing is irradiated food does not become radioactive because we irradiate it with low energy gamma rays, right? Usually cobalt 60. So, and remembering once again, as just to go back to what we said during the course, if we want things to become radioactive, we must have nuclear reactions. The cobalt gamma rays, which the highest energy one has 1332 kilo electron volts, does not have enough energy to do nuclear reactions. No nuclear reactions means no radioactivity, right? So this is the symbol, international symbol for irradiated food. It's not really widely used yet, but the idea is essentially the food exposed to radiation. Could be gamma rays, X-rays, or electrons. Most times it's cobalt 60. The World Health Organization says that irradiation is safe and beneficial, right? And especially for poor countries, it's it's an inexpensive way of reducing a lot the problems with food poisoning caused by microorganisms in your food. The doses and energy, they have to be tuned every time you will use it in some new food. You have to work around it to know that you will have no impact on nutritional value, visual aspect, or taste, right? And let's just put one important thing here. You can break some proteins, but then again, cooking breaks a lot of proteins. For instance, the pasteurized milk you buy on box carts, it has had protein breaking during the sterilization process too, and quite a lot of it. Irradiation usually breaks less proteins than the other methods of pasteurization, right? Especially the ones that use higher temperature and shorter time. So that's essentially nuclear radiation. And here, EPEN has a long story of doing that. So every time they assemble some kind of celebration for, I don't know, several years of the institute or something, they always show these things. Here you have onions which were irradiated and non-irradiated. You see the irradiated onions have exactly the same appearance, but they do not sprout, and they are kept much more they don't rot for a very longer time. Here you have papaya, which was irradiated and non-irradiated. You see it reduces, it delays a lot the maturation for export, right? You have to, of course this is not good to eat yet. You could irradiate it a bit later in its life. Also for the bananas here. So this is a very well-known and very widely used technique, right? For instance, here we have beans and we have corn, and you see the difference, right? The one that was, I don't even need to tell you which one was irradiated, which wasn't, because you can see you don't have bugs in one and you have a lot of bugs on the other, right? And so maybe the greatest advantage, and this goes for every process of sterilization using radiation, it's a low temperature process, right? You don't heat, there's no heat in the story. So you have a radiation source. Usually you pass your produce, whatever the products are, because I'll talk in a while, but the same things we do with food, we can do with surgical items and everything. And so you pass your products through it. They are exposed to radiation, but they do not heat. And as gamma radiation is very penetrant, there's a lot of interesting things. First of all, you can process frozen food with no problem. So let's say we have meat, we have frozen meat. If it goes through the system, it will not warm, it will not heat. And because of gamma radiation is deeply penetrant, it will penetrate the packing. So what you can do, you can put everything inside the pack, the final pack, and you pass it through the system, right? The radiation will do nothing to the pack. We'll do sterilization in the meat, and meat is already, for instance, vacuum sealed. And the advantage that it's vacuum sealed, it's down here. Let's think of meat, same thing goes for the rest. Meat is frozen and in a vacuum pack, meaning once it passes through radiation, we have sterilized it. And supposing your plastic is 100% impervious to things, it will be sterile until you open it, right? So there's no, let's say we want to do sterilization by any other mean, you will do sterilization before and then seal it. And there's always this small moment in which you can contaminate your product back. In the case of use of radiation, as you sterilize it in the final packaging, there was no risk of contamination. More than that, you just have, let's say, frozen meat. It's all in those. It's frozen. It's inside large or polystyrene boxes, right? Those thermos boxes, and it can go this way, and there's no problem at all. Other things, they can be in several shapes because gamma radiation is very penetrant, so it doesn't matter if it's thin, if it's fat, large, if you're talking a rib with bones in the middle, or if we're talking a very large beef piece. Yeah, it goes for everything. And this is very important for the distribution of fresh fruit, especially for the export of vegetables and meats. There are several countries that will only accept to import meat if it was irradiated, and mainly not even because of things that are potential risks for your health, but for the risk that this meat will carry something that will be some kind of microorganism that may infect their own cattle, right? So when we had the mad cow disease and other diseases, if your product are irradiated, there's no chance you will take that for the other country. So there's many countries who only accept, as of today, I believe United States, Europe, and China, all they demand it has to be irradiated if it is to be exported to them, right? For instance, in aviary products, chicken, eggs, and everything, you can avoid salmonella and campylobacter easily. And the treatment of food can be in water or heat sensitive packaging with no problem. And here just an example. This is I took this picture myself. It's a small snack one. I think it's some corn snack I got in the market here, right, to take with beer on a Friday afternoon or something. And then we find there food treated by irradiation. Okay, so yes, it is in your daily life. You may not know it, but it is. And then we go to other types of radio sterilization, right? We can sterilize meat, onions, potatoes, whatever. But you can also sterilize syringes, surgical gloves, gauze, disposable healthcare materials, and so on. And the advantages are essentially the same. You do not use heat. So you have plastic syringes or something, gloves, they are all heat sensitive. They would just be destroyed in heat. But you do not use heat. So, and once again, they can be irradiated inside the final packaging, so they will remain sterile until you open them. Before that, what was used, they would use usually a sulfur component called sulfa, sterilize them using that. And there's two problems there, because you have residues. Even if you try to clean it, there will be residues, and some people are very allergic to sulfur. To sulfur, I am one of those people, right? Can tell you by myself this. And the other thing, if you sterilize first and put on the packaging later, you can reintroduce contamination in this small process. If you irradiate inside the bag, there's no way it will be contaminated until you open your packaging, right? So it's much safer, much cleaner, right? So this is essentially the standard today for sterilization of any surgical item, right? Once again, they are irradiated inside sealed final packaging, guaranteeing there's no problem. And as radiation is penetrant, the whole volume is sterilized, not only the outer surface, right? And it can be in solid, liquid, gel form, whatever. And it's used for not only these small things, but blood products for transplants, human tissue for implants, heart valves and all things, and also biomedical residues, meaning you reduce a lot the biological activity in residue from hospital to avoid contamination outside the hospital, right? And that's essentially what we can do with radiation to sterilize things, okay? As you see, it's not only very important, but it's in your daily life, and maybe you didn't know about it. Bye-bye.